So excited to have you to join us. As you enter into the
Yes,
virtual learning
doing these
space, we ask that you
PLCs.
mute your mics. If you will mute your mics as you enter the learning space, thank you for joining us.
Sorry.
And let us know where you're from. Rep your city, rep your district, rep your school. Let us know your role as you are joining us for this morning's Lunch and Learn. We are so excited to have you here this morning. We are going to be getting started shortly. As you enter the learning space, mute your mic for us, please. Let us know where you're from, who you are, what district, what school, what's your role. We are so excited to have you to join us for another Lunch and Learn. We are going to get started shortly. Hope everyone is having a phenomenal start to their week. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let us know who you are, what you do, where you're from. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Glad to have our CDCs, SPCs, and school counselors joining us from this morning from across the state. We're going to get started very shortly. If you're just joining the learning space, please mute your mic. Please let us know who you are, what's your district, your city, your school, your role. We're excited to have you here this morning. This session is going to be recorded, so we do ask that you mute your mics so that we can, and we will make sure that you receive the recording. And because we love to respect time, we're going to go ahead and get started. As you enter into this virtual learning space, mute your mics for us. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let us know who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Watch this.
Welcome. Good morning. Good morning. I am Keisha Bryant. I am the school counseling consultant here at NCDPI. Excited to be partnering with my
Take that with you.
co-partner. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself.
Thank you, Keisha. I'm off screen right now, but I'll be on screen.
Have a
This is
good
Amy
day.
Policastro Schrader, your career development.
Amy, you muted.
Amy, you're muted.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
So you
there we
you
go.
get a recording with me talking twice. So thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks so very much, Keisha, and thanks, Jean, for that. This is Amy Policastro Schrader, your career development, work-based learning consultant with the focus on career development for you. I'm looking forward to this. I see some familiar people in the chat, and thank you for helping everybody to remember to mute your mics. Thanks,
Awesome.
Keisha. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And so as you can see the schedule, we are almost complete with this process. We have been going strong since September. Today we have a wonderful topic looking ahead at our new modernized career cluster framework in North Carolina. And we're excited to have our very own Amy Schroeder presenting this information for you. To ground us in our work, we want to remind you and tell you about where we are in the state of North Carolina. Our strategic plan is all about achieving educational success, and we have a goal. Our goal is that by 2030, North Carolina will have the best public school system in the nation. Let's say that one more time. By 2030, North Carolina will have the best public school system in the nation. And you are part of that, being able to have the best school system. As CDCs, SPCs, and school counselors, you play a vital role in that. And what we're going to learn about today is one of the ways we're going to make sure that we are one of the best public school systems in the nation. If you want to know more about the strategic plan, take a moment to scan the QR code, dig in, find out where your role intersects with the work and the pillars of the plan. It is a very in-depth document, and I want to encourage you to take time to familiarize yourself with the strategic plan. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to my fearless colleague and partner, Amy.
Thank you,
Enjoy.
Keisha. Thank you so very much. If you could help me, I can't see everybody. I can't see the chat, so Keisha's going to help me on that. And I can't see how many folks are in this session at the moment. How many do we have logged in? Okay, I'm moving on because I
Oh, I'm
can't
sorry, I
see.
was muted.
No.
We have 52 people on this virtual learning space.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I did see some familiar names pop up earlier in the room and districts from Polk to Beaufort to Jackson to Hickory and more. Um, I appreciate you logging in today. What for our CDCs? This information was shared at the fall North Carolina ACTE mini conference for CDCs and SBCs and work-based learning designees, and I had a session on this at summer conference. I've condensed it a little bit, and our school counselors may not be familiar with it, and some CDCs may not. So we're going to move through this. I'm going to ask you to put some things in the chat at different times, and you will have this PowerPoint and you will have the recording of the PowerPoint as well. So moving forward, some housekeeping sessions item that you will have 1.1 CEU, and that really is you want it'll be downloaded on your NCEES transcript. All sessions are recorded. It will go out to school counselors and CDCs. It will be stored on the Moodle. So in this session, we are going to learn about or cover the why, what, when, and how of the new cluster framework. And I am just going to put in, I've cleared out the chat. Can you all give me a yes or a no? Yes, I've heard about this new framework before, and meaning yes, I've seen it a little bit, or no. So popcorn in the chat for me, a yes or a no, and that will help me.
Right now, we have several people saying yes,
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay.
lots of
Then
yeses.
lots of yeses. Great. Okay. So we are chimed in to learn what else I might be sharing or what wasn't covered previously, maybe locally. And you're really here maybe also to see if there are any changes. Okay. Well, no changes. What do you think in the chat? What do you think when you hear the words career and technical education or CTE? If you could just popcorn in the chat. And Keisha, I'm going to move some things around where I can see the chat when they popcorn. What do you? New job. Great. We've got a new person. Wonderful. Not sorry. That's what this session is for. Fabulous. Helping others. Unlimited opportunity. I agree. Unlimited real life skills gap, skills training, hands on. Yes, hands on. And skills gap. Wonderful. Opportunity is something that truly resonates in addition to the other items listed. Yes, definitely an opportunity for connecting the classroom to careers, future opportunities. So there is a site on ACTE called ACTE 101 for counselors. And it really is for counselors and anybody doing any career development coaching. And I've got the link in here. Keisha will be putting links in the chat, but again, you'll get the PowerPoint and the recording. And this site provides toolkits and resources to learn about CTE for counselors, industry partners, and administrators. So if you're a school counselor in the room, this is a wonderful site. If you're a CDC in the room or work-based learning designee, consider tagging this site and sharing it with your school counselors, industry partners, and administrators, and looking through it because there's some wonderful resources. So now what do you think of when you hear the word career cluster? If you could put that in the chat. Thank you, Keisha. I'm
You're
not seeing
welcome.
anything, any responses for the career cluster. There we go. Misty, a group of careers with similar skill sets and Audrey similarities, Lisa grouping careers together, Leanne groups an organized chart, classes working together, similar careers. Wonderful. An umbrella of careers. Okay, I'm going to go with that one, Shania, because we're going to work. I'm going to use that later on, and of course all the other terms here. But think about the umbrella of careers and organizing them. Great.
The word similar is coming up a lot, Amy, as well. Similar
Thank.
similarities.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, Advanced CTE has a site for resources related to your place in the framework. Your place, because this does connect. There's sources here for industry partners, there's sources here for CTE directors, educators, teachers, and then it says school counseling and career advising professionals. So, we've got the school counselors, and the career advising professionals is for you, the CDC. In here, it shares the national framework, resources, some toolkit, a great site to get in, and it is CTE month. So did you see the excitement or hear the excitement in my voice? It is CTE month. So it is more than appropriate to get in and look at these sites. So why are we here? Okay. So the new cluster framework. Can you put in the chat what your best guess is to how long we have had the current, what year did we start the current cluster framework? What year did we start the current cluster framework?
2010, 2008, 2016.
Yes, I see that. So in my thank you, Keisha, moving things around. So you all know my speaker notes went away and now I can see the chat. Okay, Stephanie. Stephanie gets the prize. Yes, 2002. Oh, a few people were in the 1990s. James Capoletti says 1910. Okay. So no, it's 2002, and that is 24 years now. 24 years. And yeah, 24 years it's been here. So, um, then a national committee was formed by ACTE to say, hey, let's revisit all that. And the framework, the National Career Clusters Framework, came about and was released in 2024 to the states, where all of the North Carolina states took it in and determined how they were going to adopt the national framework and maybe implement it in the state. Implementation for the new framework starts in July 2026. 2026, July 2026. The work on modernizing the framework didn't just come about when they met in 2022. It was huge, a national committee, over 23 leaders with diverse background. There's a state director meeting of a team of over 50 plus leaders. Our own state director, Trey Michael of CTE, was on the advisory committee. The Advanced CTE board of directors, Advanced CTE worked on this. CTE connected organizations, 50 plus, over 160 industry groups of different sectors, and over 3,500 CTE connected professionals. Worked on this with Advanced CTE leading it for 2 years. Got input, and the purpose of it is to have a bridge that connects both education and work, the same language, empowering the learner to learn, explore, decide for dynamic careers, and also allowing some flexibility for evolution. So AI, for an example, is huge in the world right now. It wasn't here that we know of 10 years ago. It certainly wasn't here to the general public, if at all, in 2002. Mobile apps weren't around. There are different careers, so many. So this new framework helps industries and education work together related to the career focus, and it gives flexibility for future evolving. That's why it was old and we're going to work together. It does reflect the interdisciplinary nature of work and the evolution, removing our silos across all the clusters, and that's a hint of connecting some clusters. modern language, and then flexibility for future. I see a note from somebody, and I'm not quite sure. Haley.
It's their AI note taker.
Oh, okay. Quite a distraction. Okay. Um, all right. So, okay, I'm going to lead you through. I'm going to ask for some comments later on in the chat for more popcorns. And right now we have 16 clusters, 16 national clusters, and we've had them since 2002. The link here is to the Advanced CTE guidebook related to CTE, and at the very last page shows a crosswalk from the current 16 clusters to the new 14 clusters. So the what is, we're going from 16 to 14, and again, it's implemented in 26, 27 nationally and in North Carolina. So I'm going to go through this a little bit to show you. There are some clusters that have minor changes to the clusters and that some have been combined. And going from 16 to 14 does mean some adjustments, but we haven't lost any pathways. We haven't lost any courses that wouldn't be changed normally. Sometimes we have courses that drop off because of low enrollment across the state, and sometimes we have new ones added. This new modernized framework only changes the clusters. Okay. So the original cluster of agriculture, food, and natural resources will be changing. The new cluster name is agriculture. The original cluster of architecture and construction has a new name of construction. Original arts, AV, technology, and communications has a new name of arts, entertainment, and design. The original cluster of business management administration has a new cluster name of management and entrepreneurship. Education and training has a new cluster name of education. Finance has a new cluster name of financial services. So those are 6 clusters that have new nomenclature, subtle changes there to the names. Now I'm going to go to the bottom of this listing because in the middle, Advanced CTE lists all the clusters alphabetically, and the middle section has some different adjustments. Manufacturing has a new cluster name of advanced manufacturing. Marketing, new cluster name of marketing and sales. STEM has been removed. Engineering has primarily been placed in advanced manufacturing. Keisha, can you help me out? Because when we went through this, Keisha sighed when I did this. I thought, oh, maybe folks
Look,
in, yes.
I just want you all to know, and I want to rest assured that these things have been moved to other areas, but we have not lost anything, and we're still going to be able to do and to assist students with this work and with these changes.
Thanks, Keisha. I'm going to sigh with you all too. Relief. So we have transportation, distribution, and logistics. The new cluster name is supply chain and transportation. And the one on the bottom, oh, we didn't have a cluster, but we're going to have a new cluster name, energy and natural resources. So that natural resources, second part of the nomenclature there, is taken from the original current first cluster named agriculture, food, and natural resources up on the top. So know where that came through. Energy and natural resources is a new cluster. All right, now we're going to go in the middle because the middle has some changes. And remember, we went from 16 to 14. You've just seen that there's going to be a new cluster. So some clusters will be combined. They're being combined. So government and public administration and law, public safety, corrections, and security is combined into a new cluster called public service and safety. Keisha, is there a way to check the mic on the attendees and mute or everyone check? I just heard a huge sigh on my end.
Yes, I
Um,
will.
thanks. And then we have information and technology. And the new national cluster name for this is digital and technology. So the cluster names, North Carolina is adopting the national framework with a little caveat in addition to this digital technology cluster. We are adding computer science on the end of it. So the new cluster name is digital technology and computer science. And in North Carolina, that's due to the computer science graduation requirement. But it doesn't, and that's the only cluster name cluster that we're not, that we're adjusting the addition to computer science at the end of it. So we have two clusters here that will be combined, health science and human services, and they're combined into a new cluster of healthcare and human services. Hospitality and tourism is going into a new cluster name of hospitality events and tourism. Okay, so going through that one by one, and here it is, all the pretty arrows. The arrows are indicative of some arrows of our new table of clusters for later on. But to simplify it, you can take a picture and this QR code goes to the advanced guidebook. This is a listing of all the new clusters effective July 26 for the 26-27 school year. And these are implemented nationally for the 26-27 school year. A few clusters have some minor name changes. We've got some few combinations, a removal and an addition. Okay, so in the chat, if you could put, as you're seeing this, and some of you have seen it before, some have not, what impacts do you see or anticipate for CDCs, school counselors, students, and stakeholders locally? And I can see the chat as things come in, but what's your first thought? We have 16 clusters going to 14 and some of the changes. I'm not seeing any inputting yet. So, okay. All right. Oh, Audrey. On a practical logistical note means that registration and publicity materials need to be updated. Yes, absolutely. And you got a thumbs up on that. Inform, constantly using the new terminology. Yes, great. Okay, Michelle, change is hard and our STEM school is concerned, but we're looking at revamping what we offer at our STEM school. We still have STEM and we've taken the engineering courses into the advanced manufacturing. It is change. And it's national there. I hear you on that, and it's adjustment that we can work through. I'm thinking out loud, Tessa. So something like Adobe wasn't, well, we'll see. We will see. I'm going to show you eventually where the clusters are. Yeah. We're having to change our marketing too, communications to all, how to promote. Absolutely. It's an opportunity. And I love it. And James, review how we introduced a fifth. Yes, fifth through eighth. Yes, absolutely. I love a new opportunity to sit back and reflect and mix it up. A great opportunity for reflecting on what we've been doing before and sharing the clusters and CTE and how we can do it differently, because we need to reintroduce these new clusters and throwing things. I do the pasta on the wall, and Jean will tell you, throw some noodles on the wall or shoot some holes and make some sweet Swiss cheese, because I need to reflect and think about how we can do this differently. It's a great opportunity, and I think you're all going to love. I think some of you have seen the table. I'm going to move forward because I love the graphics, and here you go. So we heard the word umbrella before. Early on, someone said, what do they think of when they think of clusters? It's an umbrella. The National Modernized Framework has new umbrellas that are over the clusters, and these are called cluster groupings, and there are 6 of them. So under each cluster grouping will be listed all of the clusters that relate to the careers that fall under these cluster groupings and courses. of course. And we're going to work through this, but think about across the board here. The first cluster grouping is building and moving. Um, the logos are North Carolina specific for each of these cluster groupings, which I just love. So now I can say why I love this new, the colors, color and visual, and our students well, I hope they find it branding and the branding easier to connect, and school counselors and CDCs and everybody. So any career and cluster that falls under the industry or careers related to building and moving go under the building and moving cluster grouping. And the logo is a hard hat with a gear underneath. So visually thinking of those types of careers that would fall under here. The second national cluster grouping is caring for communities. The logo in there, the North Carolina logo in the circle there, is somebody standing in the center with two people around them on the bookends, wrapping their hands and holding, maybe caring, providing service and support. So we're going to think about clusters that would fall under this cluster grouping. Yes, this presentation is being recorded. Yep, and you'll get it. I'm loving that you all want this recording. Maybe you could edit my stumbling sometimes. Okay, the third cluster grouping is connecting and supporting success. So the hint for this is that there's an asterisk next to that word success. And the logo up on top for branding is like an atom. So any industry that can stand on its own, but also cross connect to other industries and be embedded in other sectors falls under this cluster grouping. And you'll hear more of that. The fourth cluster grouping is creating and experiencing. And the light bulb with the arrows circling around is to show the idea of, oh, I've come up with an idea, creating and some clusters under there in careers. The fifth cluster grouping is cultivating resources, and that is a hand holding a little sapling. So you might think about ag in there. The sixth cluster grouping is investing for the future, and the North Carolina specific logo is a piggy bank with a little coin that has a dollar sign on it. So again, think of the cluster groupings here as the umbrella that is over career clusters underneath that relate to careers in the cluster grouping. All right, so we'll go through this a little bit, one step at a time. I've listed the 14 new clear clusters over to the right, and in alphabetical order. Everything in this North Carolina table is listed in alphabetical order. So you'll have the career clusters in alphabetical order under each cluster grouping, and under each career cluster, the pathways, North Carolina pathways, are listed alphabetically. So I'm going to ask you to popcorn in the chat as you're looking at the building and moving cluster grouping, and you see the hard hat and the gear. What clusters do you think would fit under the building and moving? And this is national. And so North Carolina has followed the national framework. What clusters, and go ahead and do that, and I'll hum a little bit, or I'll put a timer a little bit on there for a few, maybe 15 seconds. And we're all in this together, so, don't be shy. What clusters do you think in the new framework construction okay? All right, I'm going to do the reveal. I appreciate the, okay, interesting. Okay. All right, let's see what it is. There are 3 clusters under the building and moving cluster grouping, and they are advanced manufacturing. We saw that, wonderful. And construction, we saw that come up, another wonderful. And supply chain and transportation, we saw that come up too, wonderful, fantastic. So it makes sense, is what I'm seeing. 3 clusters fall under building and moving, and I've highlighted them on the right. So we're going to do this by deduction, and you'll see that if it's highlighted, you've already put it in another cluster grouping. The second cluster grouping is that caring for communities. So will you please put in the chat what clusters you believe would fall under caring for communities? The logo up there again is somebody in the middle being wrapped and cared for and support. And I'm going to wait for the end for Misty, if you could follow up, Misty Bruner, with that question later on. Okay, so let me reveal. There are 3 clusters under Caring for Communities cluster grouping, and they are education, healthcare and human services, and public service and safety. And those 3 came up. I love it. Um, and Dana put all 3 up. I am getting the feeling this makes sense, and I'm excited about this. The next the next cluster grouping is connecting and supporting success. And this is the one where I said, hint, hint, there's an asterisk. So you will see, hint, hint, the way North Carolina lists our clusters, I'm just going to say we have asterisks next to them, which means, oh, it's a connecting and supporting success cluster grouping. It falls into what we call also cross-cutting. It overlaps all sectors, and it can also stand alone as its own career and industry. And I'll reveal those since I'm giving you a hint there. Um, digital technology and computer science, management and entrepreneurship, and marketing and sales. So these are the clusters that fall 3 as well. Yes, all the ones with an asterisk. Yep. So, as you're sharing this maybe with your teachers or your school counselors or and school counselors, as you're working with students, North Carolina does have the asterisk next to it on our official table that you're starting to see here, which can help. And that means it's cross-cutting, connecting and supporting success across all clusters, or they can stand alone. It makes sense. Technology and computer, you can have that in every industry. We have tech support in education and health science, in biopharma, in architectural firms, at banks. Or they can stand alone as their own career facility. Think about a company that just does IT. The over and to the right of the table, that the North Carolina table, is a little reference to the cross-cutting careers, and I've mentioned that it's interconnected. It can stand alone, or they can cross over to other sectors in modern economy. So we have the 4th cluster grouping of creating, experiencing, and by deduction, quite a few are listed there. Listed clusters have been crossed off, so to speak. They're highlighted with the same color. So if you could take a guess, yeah, take a guess as to an educated guess as to what clusters would fit under creating and experiencing. I see arts and entertainment, hospitality, events, and tourism. Yes, ding, ding, yes. Arts and entertainment and design, and hospitality, events, and tourism. And Dana, there's your Adobe question there. Yep, subcluster, cluster grouping of creating and experiencing. Our clusters are arts, entertainment, and design. And then we have hospitality, events, and tourism. And the pathways that relate to those clusters are listed alphabetically for all of our clusters. Our 5th cluster grouping is cultivating resources. We have 3 clusters that are not highlighted yet. So that's a pretty quick understanding of what 2 clusters would fall under here. And I'm just going to reveal that agriculture and energy and natural resources fall under cultivating resources. And then the final cluster grouping of investing in the future has 1 cluster left, financial services. So if I take that away, here pulls out, you have a visual of the table with where the 14 new clusters are. Every cluster grouping, and then here's a clean file of it. And you will get this PowerPoint. You can take a picture of this now. I know that in the CTE world, our curriculum consultants and Jean and I have put it on our Moodle, but they are in the Moodle as well, or Moodles across the board. So we've got the 6 cluster groupings. with the North Carolina specific logos. And then underneath, we have alphabet by alpha order, the clusters for each of the cluster groupings. And under each cluster in alphabetical order is the pathway. Every district does not offer every pathway, so we know that, so that hasn't changed. There's a link here to our CTE course management site where you can look at the courses. Don't believe that's been updated yet for 26, 27, but shortly you should have some type of link. My understanding is definitely by July because it was implemented, but I don't know the specific timeline. So there is a how. How are we supposed to implement this? Teamwork makes the dream work. And there's a link to an implementation planning guide if you'd like to use it. And it is simply a document that you can edit, make your own, think about some considerations of how we're going to implement this, who's going to do it, our next step. So it could be the first step would be review the new cluster framework. What is different? Doing a crosswalk locally of the impact. And what staff could be included and include each other, meaning school counselors and CDCs and others, CIMCs and teachers. How can we do this and incorporate it and make sure that everybody's aware of it and embed it across CTE? So here you alluded to earlier, when I asked what kind of impact, registration guides, marketing materials, I think Teresa mentioned that, communications to parents, student, and communities. What about course codes? So there will be course codes related to work-based learning courses and CCP. And those are the only course changes related to the modernized framework. And that's because of the new cluster nomenclature and the four-letter abbreviation. And here this is our four-letter abbreviation. You're in the world of CTE or CMICs would have this. And then I believe that is also in our inventory guide. A reminder that it's implemented in 26, 27. So here's a picture of our North Carolina CTE course inventory guide. This has been on the CTE DPI site since the fall. So you can download that. I do have a link to that site, but if you go to NCDPI and search for CTE, this is provided in the curriculum section. So the fifth bullet here has a link to that. So our new CTE North Carolina course inventory guide is organized a little different. It's going to be organized to provide, or it is organized to provide, North Carolina CTE cluster information. Really? We lost sound? Can anybody hear me? I have my mic up. Can you hear me? Can you
I
hear
can hear
me?
you, Amy.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right. I'm glad.
Yeah, and I can hear you. You're fine.
Julie never had sound? Huh. Okay. Um, well, I wonder, Keisha, if you could type in there and say, the recording will be shared and you'll be able to hear, sorry about the technology. It looks like we've
Okay.
got some folks in different areas across the state having some tech challenges.
Okay.
So thank you. So the course inventory is organized to have career cluster and information, and it's going to be organized by our clusters and program of study. There's lots of sections on work-based learning and what that means in North Carolina, implementing it, the cycle of experiences, the career development continuum, taking students from awareness, exploration, preparation, participation, and then specific work-based learning experiences and courses. And the whole course section and listing is going to be organized by the career clusters and the cluster grouping. So here on the bottom of this page, this is a capture of the table of contents of the course inventory. On page 19, you'll see the cluster grouping heading career for communities clusters, or caring for communities clusters. Sorry. That's a cluster grouping nationally. And under there will be listed by alphabetical order the clusters that fall under career caring for communities cluster. And then you can have access to the CMS system. So now, after you've seen the breakdown and the deduction, yes, wonderful, Julie. Glad you like how the inventory is being listed. And that is on our CTE site and has been since the fall underneath the curriculum area. So now that you've seen the changes a little more thorough and breakdown, and we deduced, and you all lined up the clusters underneath the cluster groupings, and you've seen how the course inventories will be changed, which change do you think will make the biggest impact? The biggest impact. And impact can be positive or it could be less than positive. I like to think of the positive, but which do you think will make the biggest impact? If you could drop that in the chat, please. Which change have you seen so far? Do you think will make the biggest impact? Thank you, Jean. Common terminology between education and workforce. Yes, absolutely. Those cluster groupings are key to connecting with industry and the workforce. Um, when we have advisories and meetings, and when we're talking to industry partners related to hosting interns or pre-apprenticeships, etc., coming to career fairs, we can now talk in lingo that they understand. So the national Advanced CTE came up with the national framework after 2 years of work with those huge partners in the front, and came up with these cluster groupings and the new clusters nomenclature so that when we talk to industry partners, they understand. And those logos that North Carolina has specifically for the cluster groupings will also help. Helping to speak with somebody, oh, this is a cluster. We are focusing on careers in building and moving. So any career and cluster related to that. And then we have the caring for communities, etc. And the cluster, yes, Jason, the cluster names are more relatable to students, absolutely. Grouping and connecting them together. And Jennifer, having a one page, yes, having a one page that shows the changes will be helpful. So, and that can be, you can take this PowerPoint and do what you want with it. I put the blank new cluster framework table on the Moodle this summer, and it's under resources. So if you go to the CDC Work-Based Learning Moodle, you'll see a section on the new framework, and that has a blank one, a blank framework, and it has cut out a table that you can cut out all the new clusters and interact with students in the class or your teachers. So go in and take that, download it, print it out, and make some activities from that to have your teachers match up in a line as well. Thank you for that. And then as you devise your the local adoption, you may not have the frameworks that are all, I'm sorry, the pathways that are listed here. You may not be offering all the pathways. We can't possibly do that in every district. So you'll have the opportunity to update and tailor it there. Okay. Easy to make changes. Yes. Yep. To personalize it for your district. I wish I had an applause on that one. It is, thank you, Jennifer. That was the intent, and hopefully the templates help you with that. So at this point, I do have time for questions at this breaking point that you can put in the chat. Of course, I may not have addressed everything that you're thinking of. I tried to, Keisha and I tried to ensure we were addressing as much as possible. And I'll wait. I'll give 20 seconds on my timer to see if any questions come up. There is a form later on coming up shortly where you can send follow-up questions, and I'll get back to you if you don't want to put that out for the general public to see. But as you reflect on this session and what you're learning and possibly hearing again for the second or third time, and you have a few ahas, there's a follow-up form where you can submit questions, and that's coming shortly. I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on. and see what else we can go through. Okay, I am at the wrap up and closing. So this may help with the questions. You know, we do this now and then, and I know when I did this at summer conference, I had participants do this, and at the fall mini conference from NCACT sponsored, and the North Carolina School Counseling Association. I did this presentation for them, and our counselors are excited. Take a moment to reflect here. The triangle is, what 3 points are you taking away from this session? I'd like you to drop those in the chat as you're reflecting on the information that you've seen. And this new framework is going to be implemented for the 26-27 school year. What 3 big points are you taking away from this session? If you could put those in the chat, you all have been fantastic interacting and dropping things in the chat. I appreciate it. But overall, what 3 big points are you taking away? And I'm going to put my camera on so I can look you in the eye and you can see me. What 3 big points are you taking away? Karina, thank you. Updated information to reflect changes in industry and streamlining. That's okay if you just put 1. Thank you. Anybody else want to share a big point that they are taking away from this session? Appreciate, Jennifer, the explanation of the breakdown of changes. Okay, good. Thank you. Groupings are easy to remember and relate to for work industry. Relating clusters to industry. Absolutely. We can't do this without industry partners, and speaking the same language nationally across the board is going to be wonderful. Aligning secondary through cluster connection, pathway changes. Informing CTE teachers ideas on how to do that, because they may not have been hearing about this. So it's a bit of a charge for you to go back and work with your CTE teachers to bring it down step by step. Take this, do with it as you will. Take the resources on the CDC Moodle, and they will also be linked here. Enrichment, you've already been you've already created a trifold for a middle school registration. Yes, confirmed. We got it right. Wonderful. Good. You got it right. I didn't see Pender in the house, but Pender has created pull-up posters for each of the cluster groupings, and then they have QR codes to photo take in and see what clusters and pathways, specifically in courses aligning with the pathways that they're offering in Pender. More, Jim, okay, more work, but more opportunity. Yes, to have a unified way to share. Yes, that's my part related back to excitement of, hey, we can revamp this and really take an opportunity to have more people involved in the process and how we're going to do this. More people involved in the process, maybe that implementation guide or think about it involves more ownership. And you get more creative ideas the more folks are involved. New docs, Adobe Teacher. Good. Okay. Wonderful. So what about, let's go to, we're going to skip the square because that kind of relates to the triangle. But is there any questions still circling in your mind that you can think of? Any questions still circling in your mind? And if it is, good for the cause, the whole room, go ahead and put it in there. And then if it's not good for the cause, or the group, and maybe it's just specific to you and in your school or district, let's fill out the form that's coming up for follow-up questions. But really, if
Hey, Amy,
yes,
can I chime in?
yes, ma'am.
I just had an idea because I was thinking about what you said about Pender having the pop-up posters, and I know districts are looking at budget cuts and different things like that. But based off of the cluster groupings that they do offer, what if they were able to tie that back to their advisory committee and they had one company that could be a sponsor for each one of the groupings, and their name could be on that pull-up banner also, so the kids could also see businesses that are associated with that, so you're still kind of getting all the bang for the buck too.
Yeah.
Just thinking about promotion and tying all that in with your workforce partners. Just a thought.
Yep, excellent, Jean. Yes, that's a great idea. A great idea. Buy in, think of your advisory committee and how do they fall under what cluster grouping, and leaning into your CT director. I know we have at least one in the room of creative ways to engage your advisory. One that's fantastic. It could be very competitive, right? And people who might want to sponsor that. That's wonderful ideas. We always think about connecting to the workforce in ways to educate, learn, and help the school system. So as promised, I'm providing some resources, the link to the advanced, oh, I have a typo there. There is no D, it's advanced CTE. And I'll correct that before I send that out. I've got a resource Google folder that has the pathway table that we work through, the implementation planning guide, and you'll have a link to the PowerPoint in a PDF format with the recording from today. And so it might take a few days to get that to you as the recording is going to be converted, but you'll have that. And then extra, there is one more CTE Lunch and Learn session, and that will be on March 10th. We have Howard Latimer, our military liaison, and he is in CTE now. And Howard will share one of the 3 E's, enlist, employ, enroll, and he's focusing on lists, specifically military careers and exploration for us. So you register for that the same way you've registered for any other Lunch and Learn and today's. Here is the form for follow-up questions. And Keisha, could you help me and put the link in the chat, and you all could also do a QR code.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so there's some information or some questions in the chat. We've got a question about how you would prioritize getting this information, receiving the information or sending it out. And Shania, if you could clarify that, maybe you could open up your mic or put it in the chat. Sending it out. Okay. Leaning into your leadership to help figure that out and determine that locally. And that's part of that implementation planning. If it hasn't been sent out already, to lean into your management always, especially for any marketing and sharing of information. Your building level and your CT director. And Delisa in Chapel Hill asked to please share any new marketing materials that anyone has already created, registration materials too. Okay, I will connect with Pender and ask that they post that to the CDs. I'll ask their CT director to consider sharing it, and the CDCs to post to the Moodle if their director approves of that. But that is Pender, and your CT director can connect with them too. Anybody is welcome at any time to post something to the CDC and Work-Based Learning Moodle to share. Remember, there's a forum there called Connect, and connect to district CDCs and work-based learning designees, or any CDC and work-based learning designees, and share away. And then again, there's a resource folder in our Moodle that has some information. Yeah, great idea, Jean. Kudos from Michelle and Buncombe to lead into your business advisory. And thank you, Michelle. It's been fun. I'm loving this. I am loving this new framework. It simplifies the connection, industry, education. It helps workforce development and understanding it. And I think James Capoletti mentioned earlier in the chat, starting younger in 5th grade, the branding, the logos, simplifying the language to a young child. What kind of careers are in building and moving, and what kind are in caring for communities and financial. And the other cluster groupings, there's 6 of them, and then the coloring. But getting down that we've got new cluster names that are organized alphabetically order underneath those cluster groupings, and they connect specifically to careers, workforce related to careers that fall into the cluster grouping. I'm loving it. So I've left the following up questions up here on the slide. I'm hoping that my speaking has had some time for you to take a picture of it. And if you want any additional follow-up, my email will be at the end of this. Some of you already have my email, and you could send me an email directly, and I'll send you the link to the form, because we really want to have the questions in the form, so we can call it and go through it. Thanks, Keisha. And Keisha has put the link to the follow-up question form in the chat a few times and just put it in there again. All right, so thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see some faces, and I will put my email in the chat and put Keisha's email in the chat as well. There's mine and Keisha. I'm getting some pop-ups. Keisha Bryant at dpi.nc.gov. Yeah. Okay. I'm here. I'm seeing some good feedback. So thank you. That's wonderful. Helpful. Um, you will get, Julie, it'll go to the Moodle. The recording, the PowerPoint will, in PDF format, will have a link to the Moodle, to the recording, and also that resource folder, which will provide some resources that were on and shared today, and a reminder that for CDCs and work-based learning designees, there is in the CDC work-based learning Moodle a section called resources, and the new cluster framework is the very top. You can't miss it with some resources. If you think you've been dropped from that Moodle, send me a direct email and we'll get you back in. And I'm glad this was helpful. You all do fantastic work, and hopefully this will help simplify the work that you do, in the end, in connecting with your students, with your industry partners, with your teachers, with leaders in the building, leaders in the community. Thank you all for participating today and your engagement. I truly appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Bryant, Keisha. As we're planning these lunch and learns, Keisha really has come up with, hey, these are topics that are, CDCs or school counselors may benefit from. So definitely taking a lead on my partner, Keisha, in this, Dr. Bryant, and excited, always also from my partner, Miss Jean Turner. Appreciate that input and further connecting how easy this is going to be with industry. Yes. Happy
Amy,
CT
you are
month.
a great partner, so thank you for your partnership. And really trying to mimic what we do is mimic what it should look like, hopefully, in your buildings. We want CDCs, school counselors, and SPCs partnering together to do this work for um, the benefit of students. As Amy has taught me, every student has a case, a unique case, which embodies all the work that we for school counseling do: career, academic, and social emotional. So, making sure that we are partnering together and not remaining in silos, but working in our buildings with one another to leverage our students and make sure that they have post secondary success. So, thank you, Amy and Jean, for being a great partners at the state level.
Appreciate you. I'm going to stick around until 11:30, which is 2 more minutes. If anybody had some specific questions they wanted to ask, to cover, I can share some of the PowerPoint again, but I'll be dropping off Keisha and I will be dropping off at 11:30 and turning this off and sending it forward to have it converted in a manner to send out to you all. Hey, Miss Tammy, I see you. I see you. You in the classroom? Hello, James. Is there a survey link? There is, and Keisha put that in there for follow-up questions. So if you want to provide some feedback about the session, I will put that in the chat again. That is for follow-up questions, and any feedback can go in there. Teresa, we haven't done specific feedback like a survey for any of the lunch and learns, but we use the follow-up questions for that. Now I see you, Tammy. Yeah, from the first view, it looked like maybe you were driving. Okay, I'm going to go in now and stop the recording. All right, the recording